What I want to talk about today starts with a little bit of a confession. And I don't know about you, but it's always interesting when someone says they're about to confess something. And there's nothing salacious here, but it is something that I'm mildly embarrassed about. And you will probably marvel at my simple mindedness when you hear this. Anyway, I'll go ahead with the confession, then we'll jump into what I want to talk about today on this episode of Andrew Petty is Dying. This is Andrew Petty is Dying, where we tap into the power of our mortality to become the people we were made to be and live the lives we were made to live. I'm your host, Andrew Petty, and I'm dying. I hate to say it, but so are you. For many, many years, driving on rural roads, if I encountered a slow driving pickup, something that to me looked like a farm vehicle a farm vehicle, commonly in my experience, they were driving at or under the speed limit. And sadly, I am someone who takes a speed limit as a suggestion or maybe a starting point for the speed that one might travel at. And I'm not proud of that. That is something that I probably would do well to amend, a behavior that I would do well to revise or improve. But that still tends to be the case, that I am driving faster than the posted speed limit. And when I encounter someone who is driving at or under the speed limit, I begin to get irritated. And in rural areas, when I would come across or come upon what appeared to me to be a farm vehicle driving at or under the speed limit, I would immediately start to get irritated and think, what is going on? Don't they have anywhere to be or anything to do or anything that needs attention? And can't they understand that others of us have places to be and things to do and things that need attention? One day, in a moment of irritation in that situation, it dawned on me that actually, Andrew, there is nothing urgent for them to go tend to because their work requires a consistent daily input that over time will produce a crop, in the case of a wheat or corn farmer, for example. But there's nothing on any given day, all of the things remaining equal, that requires them to hurry. If they hurry back to their property, the wheat will not have grown any quicker than if they take their time getting back to the property. Yeah, there's not much that a farmer can do to expedite the yield from the crop that they've planted. There, of course, are regular daily inputs that are required in order for the crop to succeed. And even then, it's not a guarantee that the weather will cooperate over the course of the growing season. And so what the farmer is able to control is if they plant in a timely fashion, if they water, if they protect from pests and weeds well, if they are managing their soil well. I'm not a farmer, so I'm just thinking off the top of my head what some of those things might be that they can control and influence. But there are very few emergencies in the life of a wheat or corn or soybean farmer. Flooding might be one of them, but even flooding is something that the farmer can do little about. And so there's, I would assume, often little value in hurrying as flood waters rise to protect a crop, because the flood waters are going to do what the flood waters are going to do. And so the farmer is in this persistent tension with his environment or her environment to do their part and to hope and to pray that the environment does its part in cooperation with his or her desire to produce a bountiful crop. That was the realization I had that time. I realized, and again, some of you are probably thinking, gosh, Andrew, that is not rocket science. That is something that, is self-evident. But to me, in my simple-mindedness, it wasn't self-evident. And it really struck me like a ton of bricks. Like, of course, they don't have a place to hurry. And how rude of me to attempt to impose my frenetic way of going through my days upon them when that's of no value to them. And frankly, it's rarely of much value to me, even though the crop that I'm attempting to produce in my personal and professional life is a bit different, especially in my professional life. There are things to tend to and things to be done that can actually, yield a quote crop in quicker order than in the case of an annual cycle for a farmer. That's my confession, that I'm a rude rural driver. I was at least, and now I've tried to mend my ways and acknowledge, hey, all of the things being equal, don't have anywhere to hurry off to. And that is not a value statement. It doesn't mean they're not doing their job. It just means there's no value in hurrying. Which begs the question, I think it begs the question, how do we approach the parts of our lives that are like, metaphorically speaking, the crop that a farmer is attempting to yield on an annual basis? So let's think of crops in our lives that might benefit from the mindset and approach of a farmer. Good character, raising kids to become high quality adults, developing professional competence, doing what we can to create and maintain health and physical well-being and fitness, and sort of do what we can to optimize our metabolic and biological functioning, our ability to move and be in the world the way we want to move and be. Those are things that require typically a daily input, daily diligence in order to produce the crop that we seek. And in those areas, and there are many others I'm sure you could think of and that we could think of together, it is important for us to have the mindset, the mentality of a farmer, that I do the things on a daily basis that will increase the likelihood that I will reap the rewards of a crop that I seek someday in the future. And thankfully, because we are only given one day at a time, and tomorrow's not guaranteed, we only ever, like the farmer, need to be terribly concerned about the things of that day. What can I do today to influence and increase the likelihood that I will produce in my life the kind of crop that I'm looking for, the level of fitness, the quality of character, the professional competence, those kinds of things. What can I do today to increase the likelihood that I will produce the kind of crop that I'm looking for? I don't need to hurry toward that thing. I don't need to be white-knuckled or clenched or anxious about that thing. None of those things in the production of these crops in our lives that require a longer-term investment of time and energy benefit from us, metaphorically speaking, speeding through the day, frantically attempting to get that crop to produce itself more quickly than it seems to be, or as quickly as we would like it to. In that regard, it's much better for us to assume the pace and speed of the farmer, who methodically, diligently goes about tending to the things that matter more, that need attention today, in order for, in the future, the crop that we desire to be produced. Landing the plane here on this short little ditty on an observation I had in the world as I tried to speed through rural areas and was frustrated by slower moving farm vehicles. When we're attempting to produce crops that require diligent daily input, have the mindset of the farmer, not the mindset of the idiotic Andrew Petty racing through the countryside trying to get to my next thing. In a moment, I'll conclude this conversation with my typical sign-off, which is, as you know, remember you are going to die, but you're not dead yet, so get after it. But before I do that officially, I want to touch on that final piece of that sign-off, which is, so get after it. And perhaps I've communicated or led you to believe, or you've assumed that when I say get after it, it means, go big, go bold, go hard, go, daring, go fast, don't stop, keep moving. I don't mean that, though, and so I wanted to elaborate on it a little bit. When I say get after it, I really mean get after it, whatever that means for you today. And for some of you who have given and tend to give everything to your work, and at the expense of your family and other relationships or your health, things that are vitally important, getting after it might mean taking your foot off of the gas pedal at work and beginning to press the gas pedal in other areas of your life with your family. So you might actually slow down at work so that you can be with your family and slow down and be with them. So getting after it could look like a slowing down, not a speeding up. So I don't want to ever imply or lead you to believe that I think it's good for us always to be moving along at a breakneck speed because mortality is breathing down our neck. In fact, the mortality mindset that we're attempting to create together here on this show can often lead us to realize that it's time to take our foot off the gas a little bit and to slow down and give the things today that matter more than the others the attention they deserve. And most of the forces arrayed around us in the world are also arrayed against that focus and that intention. The internet, social media, the pace of life, especially in the Western world, the values that we culturally have come to value higher than others, i.e., looking a certain way in front of the world, performing to a certain level in front of the world, all of those things tend to work against us. And so it is perhaps one of the chief battles we will fight in our life is to give the time, energy, and attention to the things that matter more when the forces arrayed outside often are arrayed against us, and the internal forces within us that, those that are especially arise from our ego, to want to look competent, to want to look successful. Forces without and within are very much more often arrayed against us than for us. And so it is monumental work to give attention to the things that matter more now. That's where mortality can help us. And so if getting after it today means it is important for you to get moving and move faster in some way, or to heed something that you've been neglecting, then by all means. But perhaps for you today, get after it means actually slow down a little bit and take some time to separate yourself from the helter-skelter that you've allowed yourself to get consumed by. So with that, hopefully helpful fleshing out of my typical sign-off, I will go ahead and sign off and remind you to be, when it's appropriate, like the farmer, and not like the idiotic Andrew racing through the countryside, irritated at the farmer who's moving at a perfectly reasonable pace. So remember, you are going to die, but you are not dead yet. So get after it.